So you've probably just ordered some AC manifold gauges and you're not really sure what the hell to do with them. Hopefully this video can sort of cover that and make this a lot less daunting and complicated. Now this is the AC manifold gauge. It reads low side pressure and high side pressure. I have a separate video on what those mean and all the intricacies. I'll link it in the description below. But for this video we're just going to cover the basics and how to connect it up and what various things mean and how to open and close valves and things like that. So yours may look slightly different, but the principle is really the same. These are sort of open and closable valves. They join onto the end of the hoses here for the low and high side, so blue and red. If you look at each end of the blue line here, the one with sort of like a little flexy part here, this smaller pipe, that actually joins onto the gauge itself. And the other more solid one that connects onto the open and closable valve light, so you can screw these on using the fittings provided. Now these fittings all have gaskets inside. For the most part they should work with no problems. Don't use pliers or anything like that to over tighten these. They should all be done finger tight. So that's valves to the open and closable valves, into these, any fitting such as that, and even into the vacuum pump as well. It does help if you use Teflon tape. So when you have this connected up to the manifold here, put a bit of Teflon tape on all of these, connect them only one time and store it as one unit, sort of hang it up in your garage, and that way all these are permanently sealed, the Teflon taped, and you don't have to disassemble it anymore. It's all together. Right, so I've connected the valves here to the end of the blue and red lines, and for the other end of these two we're just going to connect them onto the manifold gauge like so. So now the low line is connected to the low side on the manifold gauge, and similarly for the high side we're just going to connect the refill hose, and this is how we get refrigerant into the vehicle. Now the ends here, these are just storage nubs. They're not actually connected into the system in any way at all. It's just so you can put your valves on the end and store them when it's not in use. So now it's all connected. There's no reason why you can't just store this in your garage like this, all as one unit, and the only thing you need to do then is connect it to the vehicle. We don't really need to keep it in a case because you'd have to redo these lines and make sure there's no air escaping or anything like that. So we can simply store this like this and it's all in one piece. So I talked briefly about this yellow refill hose. That's how you get refrigerant into the car and also out of the car. You can actually reclaim refrigerant from the car as long as you have some sort of approved storage container for that. You can't just vent it off into the atmosphere. It's really illegal. You get a big fine. So that's what this is for. And the looking glass here is to actually visibly see that refrigerant is flowing in or out of the system. So it's just a little looking glass into the manifold here. Now underneath this cap here, that's how we purge air out of the lines. We should never put air into an AC system. So what we do, we connect our refill line here to a can of refrigerant, like so. And when that's connected, well, this line is still full of air. So we just press down on this Schrader valve here with, say, a flathead screwdriver and just vent all the air out of the line. When we get a little bit of refrigerant coming out, which is actually legal, you can do that, just a little bit, we know all the air is out of the line, and we can begin refilling the vehicle, recharging. And the cap here is just to keep the dust and debris out of the way of the Schrader valve there. And last but not least is the low and high side valves here. And that's how you can get a reading off the low and high side ports in the car, just by opening these valves with these connected to the vehicle itself. Also, when you refill refrigerant, you typically, well, always refill through the low side of the vehicle. So you open this valve up and that allows the refrigerant to flow up here. Now the valve's open, this little valve here is open within this kind of blue plastic here, and it flows out of the blue line here. And you can close it like so. If you know mine doesn't actually have arrows for open and close, but when it's open it's loose, it's higher away, and closing just like so, it's tighter to the system. So that's how you know. You can even blow down the line and the air will come through. That's how you know the valve's open. Similarly for the high side, if you open this, it opens up the valve inside here, and things can flow here. But you never really refill refrigerant through the high side, it's always through the low side. So that's a brief overview of how this all connects together and how to take simple readings. I've got a video, I'm going to link it below, on how to actually connect this to the vehicle and get some use out of it. One last thing I'm going to cover is how to connect this to a can of refrigerant. Now, you will need something like this. This is called an ACME half-inch valve, and when you buy refrigerant, they typically have a standard half-inch sort of nodule on the end that you need to pierce with a valve. So you can get these here, I'll link them in the description below. And the idea is you open this fully, so it's all the way up, screw it down into that by just turning the whole thing, and then tightening the top into the refrigerant, and that pierces the top. So then when you re-loosen this again, refrigerant will flow out of here, and this connects to your standard inlet line, and that's how it goes to the manifold gauges. So this is important. Once you've pierced the can with this, this now lives with the can until the can is empty. So to close the can, you close the valve, and you store all of this as one unit in your cupboard if you want to reuse this again at a later date. So that's what this ACME valve is, and that's how this links with the AC manifold system. So now it's all together here, you can just simply hang it off the hood pieces here, the locking mechanism. That's usually what this hook is for, and you can now connect it to the vehicle itself. So this video just covers how to set up a set of AC manifold gauges. Check out my other AC videos, I'll link them in the description below. You can learn various other things about AC, such as pulling vacuums, leak detection with UV dye, and recharging the system, and even how to connect them to the vehicle themselves. So I hope this basic video helped you. Check out the others, and thank you for watching.